What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Caffeinate. Today for May the 10th of 2019. My name is Samuel Adams, and welcome to today's show. Of course, as always, I hope this one does find you well, and if you happen to be brand new to the show, this is a daily gaming news podcast where I bring you the hottest gaming news from around the industry, and today we have some pretty big stories because we got two big announcement events yesterday, one of which was the State of Play from PlayStation, and the other was a big Ghost Recon reveal, which we also talked about yesterday. But today we have a couple of more details, as you would expect from a full reveal. I know, it's kind of crazy, but that, of course, is our headliner for the day. Following that, Nintendo's E3 Direct has gotten a couple of more details revealed. The State of Play, we will go through all of the announcements if you were curious as to what is coming with the future of PlayStation, including some talk about Final Fantasy VII's remake, because we finally got a brand new trailer for that. A little bit of a teaser, if you will, for more news to come in June. And, of course, a good bit of news about Medieval as well. Now, I will say when we get to the State of Play portion of the show, I'll be kind of touching lightly on each specific point. We won't be doing a deep dive into everything that was talked about. I just want to keep you guys up to date, not necessarily inundate you with a ton of detailed information like that. But I will always have links to all of the articles down below if you do want to do some follow-up research. On top of that, for those that are fans of Tetris 99, but for those that don't like actually playing with people, then guess what? You can play offline for $10, and that is going to round out today's lineup. It seems like a short show. I promise you, there is a lot of girth to this one. It's how you use it. I tried to make that work. Anyways, if you are brand new, welcome on in. The show is hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. If you did want to check it out live on twitch.tv/TheSamuelAdams, then it's taken down and put up on podcast services around the world, including youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia, as well as Spotify. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top stories. Ubisoft officially unveils Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and it looks pretty dang good. Breakpoint is officially the next title in the Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon tactical shooter franchise, and it's coming out on October the 4th, publisher Ubisoft revealed via a live stream on Thursday. It takes place on a remote island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean called Aroa. Ubisoft said Skell Technology, the fictional company that first appeared in 2017's Ghost Recon Wildlands, has a compound there, along with an army of lethal autonomous drones. When the island is taken over by a rogue special ops group called the Wolves, a great soldier codenamed Nomad, the player is sent to infiltrate it. But the Wolves are expecting him. Like Wildlands, Breakpoint has both solo gameplay and 4-player co-op. Player versus player combat will be available at launch, along with 4 character classes. While Ubisoft did not provide details about the new classes, it said players can swap between them freely, and it will add more of them post-launch. It also said players can keep the same character and the same progression throughout the entire game. Breakpoint will get a major content expansion every 4 months, Ubisoft said. The first update will include the game's first raid, which takes place on or near an active volcano. Ubisoft accidentally leaked the name Breakpoint a day ahead of the official reveal, as we talked about on yesterday's episode of Caffeinate. A graphic briefly appeared on the publisher's German store depicting the game's Wolves Collector's Edition, which comes with a statuette of a Spec Ops soldier. It also teased its new game last week via a free update for Wildlands called Operation Oracle. The downloadable content includes 2 new missions featuring The Walking Dead and the Punisher actor John Bernthal as Major Cole D. Walker, a ghost team leader with a mysterious agenda. Walker appears in Blackout as well, possibly as the antagonist, judging by the game's world premiere trailer. I can confirm he is without a doubt the antagonist in this case. I believe he may be the leader of the Wolves, if I'm reading into it correctly. But the Ghost Recon series first debuted in 2001 on PC and consoles, and currently has a community of over 15 million players, and that is specifically in regards to Wildlands. And so that is pretty much what we've got so far about Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Now, I will say, yesterday, I was incredibly sick. I was absolutely on my ass the entirety of the day. Do you know what that means? I got to watch all of these events in full glory because I couldn't really do anything else. So I literally watched the entirety of the gameplay, the reveal trailer, the event that Ubisoft had put on for Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And I will say, this is a very intriguing Ghost Recon game. Now, if you played Wildlands, you'll know that you either loved it or you hated it. There were very few people that were in between on it. And overwhelmingly, underwhelmingly, it was just a video game. Like, that's pretty much what it was. There wasn't anything that stood out that made it shine above the rest. Although it was fine at what it did, it just wasn't mind-blowing. With Breakpoint, it really does feel like a return to the roots of Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, and that's kind of the vibe that I think they want to bring with Breakpoint. During the reveal, before anything was talked about with this specific new game, the history of Ghost Recon was given. A timeline was put up on the screen showing, where we had come, where Tom Clancy had been over the course of the past, nearly 20 years. And so with that, you kind of got this vibe of remembrance, of nostalgia, if you will. And so going into that, whenever you're looking at the gameplay of Breakpoint, it very much so does feel like those earlier Tom Clancy games, at least in how they are approaching the combat, the stealth, if you will. A lot of good elements here within Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint. It is without a doubt the most I have been interested in a Tom Clancy's game in years, specifically when it comes to Ghost Recon. It's going to be a big seller for 2019 without a doubt, and I do hope that they make it a good solo and co-op experience. Of course, they did the same with Wildlands, but it still leaned heavily towards having a group to play with if you did want to experience it to its fullest, which, to be it is a game about a team infiltrating an island, so I would assume a couple of friends would probably help there. But it does look to be a big hit when it comes to the Tom Clancy franchise, and I do hope that it does well, because I do like Ghost Recon. If you've been following along as the leaks have come out, I have been hoping deeply for a Future Soldier 2 or a successor to the Future Soldier game, but unfortunately, it looks like we're getting something that could actually be better than that. So we will see how this one does end up, going along as it does come out. It seems to be replacing Wildlands drug dealers with drones and future tech, so that's fun for those that like that kind of setting. But overall, if you did want to learn more, of course, the entire report is up on a variety of sources, and the game is up for pre-order right now. If you want to get it on PC, it is on the Epic Games Store, not on Steam, at least as of yet. No talk about when it is coming to Steam, but if you did want to get that collector's edition, if they even still have any, you have to get that through the Epic Games Store if you want it on PC. But again, it is coming out later on this year, I believe, around September. Hold on. Breakpoint release date. October the 4th, I apologize. Coming out October the 4th on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. If you did want to get your hands on a couple of guns, grab a couple of friends, and free the island of Aroa from the domination from this terrible, terrible tech company, Skell Technologies. But let's talk about Nintendo's E3 presentation, because they have got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, but it's going to focus entirely on software to be released in 2019. Nintendo will host its annual E3 Nintendo Direct on June the 11th, and the focus will be entirely on software. Don't expect news on those rumored Switch SKUs then, apparently. The Nintendo Direct E3 2019 presentation will take place on the morning of Tuesday, June the 11th, and followed by the first of daily Treehouse live streams. You can watch the Nintendo Direct right here on the site at 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, they say, over on VG247, if you did want to dive in and check it out. And of course, Nintendo's official outlets will also be reporting on the event itself. Now, to see it focusing entirely on software to be released in 2019, I think is incredibly intriguing, because you do have a lot coming in 2019, but a lot more talk about these new versions of the Nintendo Switch that are reportedly in development. Now, Nintendo has come out and said, we're not going to be talking about any new hardware at E3, so to still hold out hope for that is a little bit, I guess, I don't want to say childish, but you played yourself. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Still could be a pretty good E3 for Nintendo. Of course, this is the first one without Reggie Fils-Aimé at the helm for Nintendo America. So, but no, I have full faith that Doug Bowser will do fine. But if you did want to dive in and check out the Nintendo news, again, that show is going to be live at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time for the E3 coverage over on the official outlets for Nintendo on Twitch, YouTube, etc. However, let's talk about the state of play, because of course, Sony, PlayStation, whatever you want to call it, will not be at E3 this year in any kind of physical format, but we did get a state of play, the second of the entire series, and we have all of the announcements to run through. There were a good many of them, although some people were left disappointed. I found it to be a pretty good show. Sony PlayStation's second state of play video showcases a number of new titles and showcase the re-reveal of a long-awaited remake as well as much more. Let's dive into everything covered during the May 9th State of Play, and for our analysis of the State of Play, check out below the post-recap episode of IGN's weekly PlayStation show Beyond, if you were a fan of Beyond. But the Final Fantasy VII Remake is back. After a multi-year absence, Square Enix and PlayStation have re-revealed the long-anticipated Final Fantasy VII Remake. It has been a long time since we saw the remake, and particularly since development moved internally to Square Enix. And while the teaser proved to be brief, Square Enix promises more to come about the remake in June, which would line up nicely with the company's plans for an E3 showcase this year. Now, let's talk about this Final Fantasy VII trailer, because it is very impressive. I am a big fan of how this one is shaping up. Now, I will say that I'm not one that grew up on Final Fantasy VII like so many other people did. I don't have a deep connection to this game. I know it's significant because of the fact that other people in the gaming industry have told me it's significant, and I think it's clear by people's passion that it should be treated well, as any remake truly should. But specifically with this one, it should be treated with a specific amount of care. I like the way it looks. You know, it's a little rough around the edges, some of the animations are a little bit off, but when it comes to a remake of a very old game, it looks like it's shaping up to be a pretty good experience. Of course, Square Enix has been doing pretty well over the past couple of years within regards to all of its games that it has been pumping out. So if you are a fan of Final Fantasy VII, that brand new trailer is, of course, up right now if you did want to check it out. But looks to be a pretty good experience, one that is definitely going to be a hit for those that are fans of the OG, and also for those that want to get into Final Fantasy for the first time. It's a pretty good entry point from what I understand. I could be wrong about that, probably am, but I suppose we will see, because many people will be playing this for the first time. I want to make that very clear. This is not one that is going to be, you know, played up to, where you start with the beginning and continue on. I don't know the timeline for this. I think Final Fantasies like Star Wars, where all of them are out of order. I'm not a big Final Fantasy guy, but the game itself looks pretty good. Now, let's talk about Medieval, because we got some news about that game too. The Medieval remake gets a release date. Medieval is coming just in time for Halloween this year, as Sony announced the remake of Medieval will be released exclusively for PS4 on October the 25th, and the remake is being developed by Other Ocean Interactive. And of course, we have a trailer for this one as well, and I will say, it looks pretty good. Not as good as I would hope, I suppose, but again, it's the style of game, I feel, when it comes to Medieval, why we are getting it in this specific kind of aesthetic and this specific kind of look, because it is trying to remain true to the game that it was back in the day. It definitely is medieval, you know, that's truly what it is, and I think it's got a cool little vibe to it. This is not one that I will be picking up, though, to be quite honest with you. I think that for fans of Medieval, it's going to do exactly what you want it to do, but for those that don't really have any kind of connection to the series, it might be a fun little game to poke around in, but for me, I just don't know about it. And also, the frame rate looks a little off. That could just be the trailer, but definitely needs some work. Again, this is all just pre-release gameplay, so I'm sure that some touching up will have been done by the time this actually hits store shelves, but I just don't... I'm up in the air on this one. It's not quite doing it for me. So we will see what happens on October the 25th. Again, this is one that has been in development for a very, very long time, like a shockingly long time, and so I would like to see it be what people want it to be, but at the moment, the gameplay itself, which is kind of intermingled in between all these cutscenes, does not look that solid. I will be completely honest with you, not exactly what people are wanting from this game. We'll see, I suppose. Now let's talk about Monster Hunter World, because a big new expansion called Iceborne is coming out this fall, and it looks to be a big, beefy piece of game. Despite its snowy appearances, Monster Hunter World's major Iceborne expansion will be hitting before winter in North America this year. Capcom confirmed the Monster Hunter World Iceborne expansion release date. It will be hitting PS4 and Xbox One on September the 9th, with a PC release date coming this winter. And so, this is a very impressive game. Again, we just talked a couple of days back about how good these sales were for Monster Hunter World. I believe hitting 12 million lifetime sales, the best-selling Capcom game to date. Or, excuse me, the best-selling Monster Hunter game to date, if I remember correctly. But I can't believe how big this expansion is going to be. As a matter of fact, at the end of this trailer, whenever the splash screen comes up for the end of the YouTube video, it always blows me away to see what people say, but this one specifically says massive expansion. It is a massive, beefy expansion. So if you like Monster Hunter, this is going to be right up your alley because there is a lot of content within this update. Of course, completely new vibe with the snowy terrain. I'm a big fan of it. I can definitely get behind it. But to think that Monster Hunter World is a game that was going to last, years on end, I didn't predict that, if I'm being honest with you. I could have never have guessed that it was going to be the game that it is today. But I'm happy because I know a ton of people that I talk to love Monster Hunter, like adore it. And so to see the fact that it is getting more and more content come to light, just phenomenal for me. So if you did want to dive in and check this one out, again, the big new update is coming to Xbox One and PS4 September 9th of 2019, with a PC release coming later on this winter, which is going to be fitting because it is a very snowy kind of expansion, but a good kind of snowy. Is there a bad kind of snowy? Probably the kind you get stuck in the house. But let's talk about Predator Hunting Grounds, because that has been announced for 2020. Developer Ilphonic announced Predator Hunting Grounds, an asymmetrical multiplayer experience that will see one group of players in control of a fire team, while another player will control the Predator. The fire team will have to put its firepower to the test against the Predator and its stealthy and tech-based attacks. And so this is a very intriguing game, and you might be saying, Sam, what exactly is this game going to be? It's made by the people that made Friday the 13th. So that explains exactly what this game is going to be. Of course, for those unfamiliar with Friday the 13th, it's basically a game in which one player plays as Jason and the rest are camp counselors that have to escape from Jason's giant attacks, which include fist, ripping, tearing, machete, etc. So this is literally taking another 80s IP and creating a game centered around the same idea. So you have a big similarity to a game called Evolve that came out a couple of years back, but without the failure. At least that's what we all hope, right? So basically you have one being the Predator, one or a group of members being the fire team, and so there you have it. That's pretty much the idea behind the game. It is a PS4 exclusive, if I'm reading into this correctly, so if you did want to dive in, you have to have a PS4 beginning in 2020. I would say probably around early spring, maybe even February if I had to estimate, but could be a pretty good game, especially considering how good Friday the 13th was. Of course, the game itself is kind of in a limbo right now. No new updates, no new content, no patches, nothing is coming to Friday the 13th because of some licensing issues that the team behind the scenes had with the game itself, which is relatively unfortunate. But the game itself, the gameplay, was phenomenal. And I think the thing that stands out about the team behind Friday the 13th is the passion. I remember listening to a plethora of podcasts and interviews in which the team talked about Friday the 13th, and they were all incredibly just infatuated with the world, with the characters, and I think that same kind of passion is likely going to be applied to the Predator game. So again, Predator Hunting Grounds coming in 2020 by Ilphonic. Big news there. Now, River Bond is a very cool little game. I was actually shocked to see how interesting this one was, but River Bond is a delightful voxel art dungeon crawler allowing up to 4 players in co-op and includes cameos from a number of indie game characters, including familiar faces from Shovel Knight, Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime, and Guacamelee, as well as Enter the Gungeon. Developed by Coco Cumber, River Bond is coming to PS4 this summer, and so this is a very, I like to call it a light game. It's a palate cleanser, if you will. Very fun little, just kind of a slashing little dungeon crawler kind of vibe here. I love the look of it, though. The fact that it does have that pixelated voxel-style look, but also a good bit of shadows and stuff like this. This is a weird game where RTX lighting would work. You know what I mean? It's that kind of experience. So again, fantastic for couch co-op. It does include that within the game itself. It looks just phenomenal for me. Not going to be a super in-depth experience. You likely won't be pouring hundreds of hours into it. But as far as indies go, this is a really good-looking little indie game. And so for fans of indies that want to see characters from Psychonauts, from Enter the Gungeon, from a whole bunch of other smaller indie games come together and experience this new world, that is exactly what you are going to be getting within the world of River Bond. So again, that is coming out on PS4 this summer if you were interested in that. Again, a nice little light indie game, if you will. Very enticing for me. Now, there is another game that was announced called Away, and it highlights a bug's life. Sony also showcased Away with a trailer that showcased the perspective of a number of different animals out in the wilderness fight for survival on your way to Sanctuary in Away. Now, there is no trailer linked on the IGN page, but Away is basically this game in which you, as the description says, play as a variety of animals trying to avoid natural disasters. There was like a fire tornado. There was a wildfire in the middle of a forest, and you have a whole bunch of these other dangerous nemesises, such as giant spiders, things along those lines. And so essentially you play as a raccoon, etc., and you have to get your way to Sanctuary, which of course, as the name hints, is a safe space. Is it going to be good? We'll see. It looked interesting. It's a very artistic game, but it does look to have some pretty solid graphics. I suppose we'll have to see if this one's a hit or a miss, but regardless, this state of play was a pretty good place to announce it because there was enough to carry the show, but also there was room for this kind of thing to be inserted. I'm excited about it. Not going to be picking it up on day one, but I'll definitely check out some gameplay and see if it is worth checking out. And of course, I will let you guys know when it comes out on an episode of The Drop, which is hosted on youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia every single Sunday to update you guys on the hottest games coming out. Now let's talk about this brand new limited edition PS4. Of course, last year we saw the Days of Play limited edition PS4 come out. This year we have another one showcased in a steel gray, I believe is what it is. But it is a brand new edition. It's the basic PS4, not a PS4 Pro or anything, but it's a shiny steel kind of coat on your PS4 with the triangle, circle, X, and square, icons on the top of it, and of course a controller to boot. It looks pretty good. Not going to be going out of my way to get this or anything like that, but for those that are in the market for a brand new PS4, could be a good opportunity to get your hands on a pretty good looking limited edition. And of course, if you save it, put it in a box, keep it for 20 years, you can probably pay your house payment for a couple of months. There you go. eBay is a beautiful thing. But if you didn't want to do that, then you can always pick up the regular PS4 or even a PS4 Pro, which is also a pretty good piece of hardware. More than likely, though, you should probably just hold out for a PS5. It's getting to that point in the life cycle of the consoles where you don't need to buy a brand new console. But we have one more story for the day. Nintendo, going back to Nintendo, will let you play Tetris 99 offline for $10. Hone your competition skills with CPU battle or play for fun in marathon mode. Releasing Tetris 99 as a free-to-play Switch game was a canny move by Nintendo, as the popular online-only title motivated users to get a Switch Online membership. Now, Nintendo is introducing a paid component with the big $10 Big Block DLC. You get two new modes. CPU Battle lets you play 98 virtual opponents offline, while Marathon is just the classic line-clearing action. Both are available offline, meaning you'll no longer need Switch Online to play it. With the original release of Tetris 99 earlier this year, Nintendo brought an exciting hook to the classic game with a Battle Royale mode. It not only lets you fight against 98 opponents, but your success in clearing lines and gaining badges can hasten your rival's defeat. 98 players get whittled down to 50, then 10, leading to the eventual winner. The offline CPU battle mode works in much the same way, but against computer opponents rather than live players. That will let you hone your skills before facing off against human players. And if you get good enough, Nintendo also announced the Tetris 99 Third Maximus Cup, running from May 17th to the 19th to celebrate the 35th anniversary of the game. Participants who earn at least 100 event points will unlock an in-game theme inspired by Nintendo's original Game Boy Tetris version. And so, of course, Tetris 99, a phenomenal looking game, one that I just fell in love with. Now, I don't even have a Switch, but I watched more of this Battle Royale whenever it came out than I would say I watched Fortnite or PUBG in that same month. It's a good-looking game. So, of course, if you do have a Nintendo Switch, but you don't want to pay for Switch Online, $10 gets you access to the basic core mechanics of Tetris 99. Of course, that marathon mode, phenomenal. Glad to see that making a comeback, because it is essentially the basic foundational experience you would get from a Tetris game, as any Tetris game should include that. So if you did want to dive in and check it out, again, $10 for this DLC. I would call it more of a key to unlock the game. But hey, to each their own. But again, a phenomenal looking game. Also, to those in the chat, welcome on in. But to go back one notch to the state of play, I wanted to rate this one because, of course, the State of Play is a brand new kind of experience the PlayStation is bringing to the table. You have a lot of hype built around these events, and of course, Nintendo Directs are something that the industry has kind of become accustomed to. We're kind of used to it at this point, and we know what to expect from a Nintendo Direct, but the State of Play has a different level of expectation because you do have PlayStation holding this reputation for big, extravagant reveals, like we saw with The Last of Us Part 2 last E3. And so, whenever you have that kind of expectation, how is the State of Play doing? How is it lining up? And I would say that the State of Play has a couple of kinks to work out. I saw one person comment, I believe it was Benji Sales on Twitter. He's a fantastic person to follow for video game sales news. But he was talking about the fact that the State of Play feels very emotionless. It feels very, very hollow. It doesn't have any kind of passion behind it. And that's really what I want to point out as well. PlayStation is all about the passion. PlayStation presentations often have some kind of person giving an actual speech. Maybe to add a host, like a legitimate host, to the event itself would perhaps make it a little bit more human. I don't know. It just feels very much so like I'm standing in GameStop in line watching all of the ticker tapes roll by, showing off all of the games that are coming out. There isn't really a big, like, you know, it doesn't appeal to me in that kind of presentation. But I will say, it's on the right path. I think this one is an improvement over the first State of Play, which of course was not that content-filled to begin with. So to have a poor presentation on top of that, you know, it's kind of up in the air on that one. But with that being said, that rounds out today's episode of Caffeinate. Of course, if you are brand new to the show, welcome on in. I do hope you enjoyed today's presentation. But if you want to subscribe on youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia, the show is put up over there 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, after it's hosted live on twitch.tv/TheSamuelAdams at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. But for those hanging out live in the chat, I do hope you have a phenomenal day. And of course, I will be back on Monday with a brand new episode of Caffeinate. But until then, enjoy the other content rolling out throughout the weekend. And you can always follow me on Twitter at PrettyChillGuy to stay up to date on everything going on in my life, including that god-awful crippling sickness that I had yesterday, because that was absolutely terrible. I never get sick. I almost died. Anyways, you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. I will talk to you soon, and peace.